We now are gathered for a poster presentation session, and Ole from the ANH Academy, London School of Hygiene Tropical Medicine, is going to moderate this session, and I have the pleasure of inviting Ole to come and take over the podium. Thank you, Ole.
Thank you, Alex. I hope you had a lovely tea break, a coffee break. Before we get started with the poster presentations, thank you so much. Good to see you. Right, so you're welcome to the first of three in the series of mini poster presentations. This is actually a unique feature of the Academy Week, that not only the abstracts, the oral presenters get to do this, but also the poster presenters get to share what they've been doing with us. So the way that it'll work is that I'll call on the person's name. They'll stand in a box there. And then once I tell them the time starts, they'll start to tell you about all of their poster and why they want you to come and visit them next door. And then the catch is that there's a timer and it starts to count down, no pressure. And then once the timer ends, we'll all clap for you and your time's off. All right, so are we ready? All right, so the way we've done this is that we've grouped this by thematic areas, and we have both in-person and online people who will be presenting today. So we'll start with the food system governance and political economy theme. And I'll call on Caroline Ferry. All right, your time starts now.
As you already know, food systems comprise of multiple stakeholders from different sectors. And our poster here is about a participatory process that was developed to implement the Agri-Food Tool, which is a tool for engaging stakeholders in food systems when making decisions on what foods to promote in a specific context in order to achieve nutritive, sustainable, as well as ecological sensible agriculture. So some of the key findings from our study are that different actors in from different sectors have different priorities, and because of these priorities, they choose different foods to be promoted in different contexts. But through dialogue sessions, we have found out that these stakeholders can come up with trade-offs in order to achieve a consensus. Another key finding is that power dynamics may affect the selection of the priorities. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. I'll invite our Fu Georgette Lumwe, please. Okay, Fu, your time starts now.
Oil palm is an important food and cash crop produced in Cameroon. And in this study, we examined the relationship between oil palm production and dietary and nutrition security for women. We relied on a household survey of 582 farmers to investigate this relationship. And we did several regressions, and we were able to show that oil palm production is associated with increased income, which does not necessarily translate to an improvement in the dietary diversity for women, probably due to the fact that they have low autonomy and control over farm income. And we also show a negative relationship between oil palm production and the production of other food crops, which is an important determinant of food consumption and dietary diversity. So we welcome you to our poster viewing for all your inquiries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Fu. We come to an online presenter now, Alexander Kaminsky. Time starts now.
So this poster basically is a summary of my PhD that I submitted a few weeks ago, which challenges the productivist paradigm in aquaculture, which is this belief that there's these that farmers need to produce large market-grade tilapia and can only be productive if they start investing in monoculture systems or sex-reverse seed or formulated feeds. But often what ends up happening is that these farmers fail, or they're locked out of this aquaculture boom in Africa. But consumers are locked out as well because they can't afford high-value tilapia. So food sovereignty basically suggests that there needs to be more autonomy for farmers to make the right choices and for consumers. And so the poster basically goes through a range of different ways that farming systems can be done that it gives people more autonomy in those systems. So please take a look when you have some time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on now to Anna Brazier, also online.
This presentation is based on two studies done in Zimbabwe, a national food system study and a rural food system study in Gokwe district. The food systems in Zimbabwe are strongly shaped by colonial policies, neoliberal post-independence policies, and inappropriate farming methods that were introduced. The focus on maize as a staple is also a very strong driver. Marginalization of indigenous knowledge has caused environmental degradation, increased malnutrition, and increased vulnerability. Inappropriate farming methods have decreased yields, and farmers who are mainly women gain little from the food system. Their labor has increased while nutrition and incomes have decreased. The poor have a diverse but spoiled diet, while the rich eat more but less nutritious food. Food has become a commodity, a status symbol, and a political tool. To transform the food system in Zimbabwe, there needs to be less focus on markets and incomes in programs and more on indigenous knowledge and behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. I'll invite Penny Farrell.
In 2021, the Food and Agriculture Organization declared it the year of fruit and non-starchy vegetables. They declared that they could potentially save the world because of their ability to achieve progress across multiple sustainable development goals. So we designed a study for Solomon Islands where we analysed 4 different data sets in concert with policy to try to identify opportunities to increase fruit and non-starchy vegetable consumption, as well as make multiple gains across sustainable development goals. We identified several opportunities, including strengthening environmentally sustainable agriculture practices that support increased production, supporting equitable livelihoods across supply chains, including in urban markets, and improving urban affordability. Thank you.
Thank you. Priscilla Boadi.
Adopting nutrition sensitivity in agriculture means maximizing the positive impacts of food and agriculture policies on nutrition. Meanwhile, there's limited evidence on the extent to which food and agriculture policies are nutrition sensitive. So we used Ghana as a case study to assess the nutrition sensitive characteristics of 17 policy documents using 17 equally weighted criteria, which we adapted from the key recommendations for improving nutrition through agriculture and food systems document. We found that the majority of the policies fell within the medium range for nutrition sensitivity, with a focus on increasing food production and little emphasis on the production of nutrient-rich foods. Our work provides an understanding of Ghana's nutrition-sensitive agriculture commitments at the national level, and I invite you to join us at the poster viewing session to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you. Sania Bath-Yegi.
Data on urban nutrition status are scarce, although by 2050, around 68% of the global population will live in cities. We conducted household surveys to assess the situation in 6 secondary cities in Bangladesh, Kenya, and Rwanda. The results show, among others, that food insecurity and poverty rates are alarming, especially in the African cities. Dietary diversity is low, and in all 6 cities and 3 countries, the double burden of malnutrition, meaning the coexistence of under and overnutrition, is present. What can we do to address this issue? Increased accessibility and availability of nutritious and agroecologically produced foods at the city markets, in combination with demand generation activities and nutrition education, will benefit the urban population. Come and visit our poster for further exchange.
Thank you. Dora Wilson.
Greetings from the Pacific Island region. The Pacific Island countries and territories have committed to strengthening food system to improve social, environment, and economic outcomes. There has been major advancement in regional food system governance in the last decade, particularly related to environment, health, and fisheries. However, the translation of regional food system policy guidance to the national level is often slow and difficult. Therefore, regional and national food system governance needs improvement. Key findings are on the screen. The research aims to identify the paradigm that shapes food system governance in the Pacific Island regions. The methods employed include theory-informed qualitative empirical study design and interview data of 73 informants in the region and advisory group of 12 policy actors across the region. Thank you.
Julie Smith.
Feeds her babies milk from a cow, the value of the milk is counted in gross domestic product, GDP. But when she breastfeeds, it isn't. The economic contribution made by women through breastfeeding is invisible in economic statistics and budget decision-making. This contributes to policy bias against resourcing this valuable care work. We developed the Mother's Milk tool to make more visible the economic contribution to society by women's breastfeeding of infants and young children. The tool calculates annual quantities of milk produced by breastfeeding women for children aged 0 to 36 months and can attribute a monetary value. It supports calculations for individual mothers, countries, and the global level. It shows countries' economic risk if women's vital capacity for breastfeeding isn't protected by effective national measures. Governments and statistical agencies should count human milk production in economic statistics. Read our paper in Frontiers in Public Health and enjoy our poster.
Thank you. Caroline Andridge.
At the UN Food System Summit, there was a focus on leveraging connections within a food system for greater impact. We saw exciting commitments to take a food systems approach for better diets and nutrition, without a firm sense of what that actually means for country policymakers. In response, we worked with an advisory group to develop a suite of resources to help answer that question. The resource explores both what a food systems approach is, with the 3-step iterative model on the left, and how to take one, with the resources on the right. The suite contains 2 types of resources. The first is an evidence review that explores what policymakers should consider as they design policies to achieve multiple benefits across the food system. It draws on existing studies to provide examples of policy impacts on 5 different outcome areas. The second is a set of 4 technical briefs that convey practical information, including examples and available tools that can be adapted to local context on how to take a food systems approach. I look forward to seeing you in the poster session. Thank you.
Thank you all. We come to the next theme, which is about food system programs, impacts, processes, and economics. Andre Flores, your time starts now.
Good day, I'm Andre Flores from the Philippines. In my study, I investigated what works or does not work, for whom, and in what context do home gardening programs improve vegetable consumption in LMICs. So I used a rapid realist review method where I sifted through the evidence and tried to see the contextual factors, mechanisms, and outcomes, or CMOs, in home gardening in LMICs. So I found that along impact pathways, effective gardening programs can be synergized or mediated by several contextual factors and mechanisms, which I can reveal to you if you visit me in my poster. So with this, the design of related programs could benefit from a thorough analysis of community attributes and food environments to ensure maximum impact of such programs to improve vegetable consumption and overall food security and nutrition.
Thank you. Antena Omer Ali. Your time starts now.
My name is Antena. I was raised by my grandma, Mrs. Menon. She gifted me an egg-laying chicken when I was a little kid. She used to feed me the eggs from my own chicken till I was 9th grade. The usual diets of Ethiopian under 2 children lacks animal source food. Being inspired by the indigenous knowledge of my grandma, I designed an innovative model called Chicken Gift Ceremony model, in which under 2 children were gifted with 2 egg-laying hens in my nutrition-sensitive poultry community trial. After 6 months of intervention using this model, a child owned more than 5 chickens on average. Egg intake increased from 0 to 5 per week per child. Underweight, anemia, concurrent anemia, and stunting substantially reduced. Motor development as well improved. There is so much more to tell you. Come to my poster number 13. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Carol Levin, please. Your time starts now.
People want to know, if my program works, how much does it cost? Do I have enough dough? Costs are varied and all over the place. Comparisons are something I just can't embrace. Ag nutrition programs are complex, so they just aren't the same. What's the point of playing this economics game? Information for planners on impact comes first. Then donors need to know, how much do I reimburse? But gaps, doubts, and lack of trust abound. Surely there must be some kind of workaround. Income seems nutrition to do away with that suspicion. We've come up with a standardized approach to estimate costs and effectiveness that we think's beyond reproach. Would you believe that we have comparable costs per participant for complex agriculture production investment? Cost per participant falls within $100 to $200 range, and it falls lower for cost of indirect participants. Do you think that's strange? To make sure.
I wish I could hear the end of that, actually. Thanks. Okay, Demeka Sembetu. The time starts now.
About 1/3 of the global population is currently suffering at least one form of micronutrient deficiency. And that's why for a long time we have different policies, programs, and plans and strategies that might include diet diversification, food fortification, and also supplementation, as well as biofortification, including the genetic and the agronomic one. Agronomic biofortification is a strategy of enhancing the micronutrient concentration into the edible part of the plant. And in order to this strategy to be effective, it is very critical to wisely select or choose the crop to be biofortified as well as the micronutrient to be biofortified. And if you are interested to know more which crop as well as biofortificants we choose for this project and why, and also what we found at the end of this project, you are more than welcome to attend my poster. It's poster number 16. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sagon Casey, your time starts now.
Multi-sectoral interventions are key to change nutritional outcomes. We all know that. But how much does it cost? What is the cost effectiveness and cost efficiency of these programs? SIMS Nutrition Project has developed standardized method of economic evaluation for these projects. We have implemented SIMS approach in Suhara program. Suhara is a large-scale multi-sectoral nutrition program in Nepal, reaching up to 2 million women and children across 44 districts. So a mixed method of cost analysis is done for Suhara using the societal approach, analyzing total as well as unit cost. Costing results shows that a unit cost for beneficiary and household are comparable to that of other multi-sector nutrition programs. Personal costs accounts for the largest share in input cost share, and community events accounts for the largest in activity cost share. And economic costs are significant share in terms of overall cost. For more, please visit poster number 17. Thank you.
Thank you. M. Mizanur Raman Sarkar, your time starts now.
Hello, everybody. Despite the success story of Mapkika did in Bangladesh, they do not address the poor women, and also poor women, there is no control over the loan. That is why another pilot project was started, microcredit with input, such as seed, beef, goat, poultry also. Then in our study, 3 years panel data was used. Sample size was 740, 540 from experimental group and 240 from control group. Then finally, the impact are estimated using difference in difference OLS method and fixed effect model. Then microcredit with income, there is a impact on nutrition, health, and other basic technical conditions. Thank you.
Right, we're moving to the next theme, which is behavioral research related to diets, nutrition, and health. And start online this time with Chantel Okundu.
Good afternoon. It's estimated that undernutrition from 2010 to 2030 will cost Kenya approximately 38.5 billion due to losses in workforce productivity. While Kenya has made significant progress in reducing the level of stunting to 18%, it continues to be a persistent problem despite higher than average coverage rates of key nutritional interventions. Our study was commissioned by the Office of the President to improve child development outcomes by equipping stakeholders with the data required to inform future programming, policy, and strategic investments. The qualitative study was conducted in 5 counties with varying levels of stunting and different socioeconomic contexts. I hope you will join me at the poster viewing session to learn more about the 5 drivers of stunting we identified and the 3 main channels to influence behavior change.
Thank you, Chantal. And Alexandra Bellows, your time starts now.
Hello. So the objectives of our study was to describe dietary diversity in men and women in farming households in Andhra Pradesh, and to quantify the proportion of the diet that was from different food sources. The data from this study was from the Bloom study, which is an ongoing agroecological program in Andhra Pradesh. And at baseline, we found that dietary diversity is low for both men and women living in farming households, that the majority of calories came from refined grains, particularly white rice, and that the reliance on markets versus home production varied across food groups for both men and women. If you would like to hear more, please visit my poster at poster 22.
Thank you. Okay, our final theme is environment, climate change, and food systems. And yeah, Lydia O'Meara, your time starts now.
Hello, everybody. So today I would like to present a conceptual framework of women's food environments in low and middle income countries. So we devised this framework based on a systematic scoping review. We reviewed over 2,000 papers and ended up with 316 for inclusion. So as you can see here, we found various characteristics of food environments that influence women's food acquisition and dietary intake. So as you can see with the circles here, we found characteristics at the external or the built food environment that confirm the characteristics in existing food environment frameworks. But where our review really shone is we were able to really clarify and define more of those characteristics at the household and individual level. And I would really like to highlight the agency circle here that we found strongly influenced women's food acquisition and intake. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final in-person, Abdullah Al-Mamoon. Your time starts now.
Thank you very much. As you know, Bangladesh is one of the climate vulnerable nations, as well as the fish consumption pattern is quite high, 20 kilo per capita per year. So we like to do a prediction model of seafood production in Bangladesh in the variable climate scenarios. So we have considered historic data from the last 20 years in Bangladesh, like temperature, salinity, rainfall, and pH, and water discharge, as well as the fish production data set, and then the population data sets. So we have used the Fish Asia model as well as Janus model to predict this model. And we found that by 2030, the fish production consumption will be 50% higher. However, we lost some small indigenous fish species that is very core part of the micronutrient supply. So in future, it will be devastating for the future nutrient security. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, online now, Abby Chapman.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Abby from UCL, and I'm sharing research quantifying the biodiversity pressures associated with the consumption of fruits and vegetables in the UK, India, and South Africa. Globally, humans just aren't eating enough fruits and vegetables to stay healthy, but increasing production will have consequences for biodiversity. Until now, the potential impacts of fruit and vegetable specific cropland on biodiversity were unquantified, making sustainability and land use decision-making difficult. We quantified biodiversity pressures using global gridded datasets on crop area and international trade and species richness estimates based on range distribution maps of thousands of mammals and birds. We brought these data together to measure the biodiversity pressure associated with a ton of a given crop. Our analysis revealed that there are no good and bad fruit and vegetable crops when it comes to biodiversity. It's complicated by international trade, for instance, as some countries offshore the biodiversity pressures associated with their consumption. We need region-specific policies to manage the biodiversity pressures we need to face, even when we're pursuing healthier, sustainable diets.
Thank you. Saray Sok.
Chomrip Su and or evening from Cambodia. Our study was conducted in Tonle Sap and Mekong River in Cambodia, where 80% of the population are rely on water-related source for subsistence livelihood. We conduct social mapping and focus group discussion for the study. Our primary finding is that there is a high degree of variability in terms of depend on different food environment type for different food group, and there is also dependent on proximity of commune to the river and lake. An interesting finding was surprising high level of depend in certain commune on mobile vendor for variety of food from fresh to processed. From initial finding is clear point intervention to improve dimension of food environment in Cambodian riverine community cannot just be limited to the built environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And last but not the least, we've got Anne-Marie Meyer.
Hi. Yes, I'm wondering if everybody's still there. Yes. This is a study I conducted with World Vision using Zoom during lockdown, which, by the way, worked quite well, all things considered. So I was looking at the effects of climate change on nutrition, which were absolutely enormous in these 4 different countries, ranging from drought to flood to waterborne diseases and the effect on women's workload. What was very interesting was that World Vision was able to apply a lot of its tried and tested existing program models, and also to encourage local innovations to address the various challenges one by one. So what was interesting as well was that even without the design.
All right, I think all of our presenters deserve another big round of applause.